2037. Have these times changed?
Yes, as we have said, it broadened to starting this year, 2023. Still going to about 2033, with other levels, other markers occurring between 2033 and 2040. However, we have also recently said that there is a 90% potential for a major contact event to occur at the end of 2026 or the beginning of 2027, though we are not allowed to discuss exactly what conditions will bring this about.
Okay, thank you. You previously spoke about hybrids living in vacant housing situations for a short time. Do these hybrids interact with human beings during their visits or observe us? I would like to create a safe and welcoming place for them to interact with me at their discretion.
Yes, they still do use vacated places temporarily. On rare occasions, they may chance an interaction with a local human. You may do whatever you wish. We cannot guarantee they will use the space that you provide.
My 10-year-old daughter is wondering if hybrid children are excited to come be with the animals of Earth. If so, which animals are they most excited by?
They are excited to interact with the animals of the earth as well as other forms of life, humans, trees, so on and so forth. They are most attracted in general, although they are excited about all forms of life, most attracted to cats, rabbits, and foxes.
You've mentioned that the hybrid children are learning about us and how to acclimatize to our society. Can you share something about them with us that would help us understand and acclimate to them better?
They are not so proficient with the idea of social norms or pleasantries in terms of the idea of etiquettes. So the idea even for some of them of learning to sit and eat on a plate with a fork and a spoon are alien concepts to them that many of them are learning. The idea of exchanging what you call small talk is still relatively foreign to them. They see the idea of small talk as something that procrastinates getting in the way of direct communication, which of course they're mostly used to doing telepathically. So they may seem quite withdrawn, quite silent for a while, until they get used to the understanding of why small talk matters to humans as a way of establishing familiarity and sort of testing the waters as to what another person is all about and in what direction the conversation might be interested in going. So they will have to get used to those kinds of social norms on your planet, even though at the same time, humans can also get used to the idea of using their own telepathy more often.
Can you describe what happened when your society transformed into a fully telepathic society? What is it like when one suddenly shifts from not so telepathic to completely telepathic?
It is like awakening into a dream where there are multiple realities speaking to you at the same time, and it involved a process of stabilization that allowed us to differentiate what was and what was not relevant for us in any given moment in terms of information pouring in from many different sources. So we had what you might refer to as a filtering time after the awakening, after 3 days of Shakana, awoken us to the idea of telepathic connectiveness, and we had to go through what might be, for some individuals, a few days, weeks, or months of filtering until such time as we allowed what was relevant to come to us and filtered out what was not. So it took some adjustment, but it didn't take too long.
And can you tell us, why do humans need regular soap and water baths to maintain hygiene and health, while so many animals on the planet don't need such practices? And how did the Greys clean themselves?
All animals will usually take advantage of water sources to clean themselves. And you have animals such as cats that clean themselves regularly. Different animals have different ways of doing so, and different needs of doing so, different levels of need. Just look more closely, more deeply at the animal world, and you will see that many of them have different ways of preening, cleaning, bathing, so on and so forth. The Greys, once they mutated from human to Grey, had very simple systems that relied mostly on the ingestion of liquids that were purged through the pores of the skin in terms of perspiration, and simply wiped themselves down with what would essentially be damp cloths. Sometimes, later on, they would perhaps pass through a cleansing mist.
Is one of the signs that we are biologically connected with ETs the idea that we don't seem so well adapted to our planet in terms of clothing, needing to bathe ourselves, and those ideas?
No, not really. Remember that the Earth game has its rules and regulations about what is necessary for playing that game, having that experience. You all have extraterrestrial connections, and from time to time, those connections can rise to the surface and make it appear as if you are a stranger in a strange land, not exactly relating to the idea of the Earth reality. But the things you are describing do not so much have to do with your connections to extraterrestrials. They have more to do with the idea of what it means to play the Earth game.
And in previous transmission, you mentioned the idea of trinary beats when referring to Essassani music. Could you tell us more about these trinary beats?
To you, they would seem very simplistic. Ba-ba-ba, 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 which underscores most of our music. But to us, we are hearing all sorts of harmonics and reverberations of frequencies within those 3 beats. So to us, it sounds a little bit more like ba 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 ba, and a more complex structure can be founded on what to you might seem to be 3 simple beats.
Are you familiar with the Star Visitor Sanctuary in Hawaii, and can you speak on its significance and usages?
Not at this time.
And how are you able to talk to multiple Earths at one time?
Time for us is not what it is for you. The idea of what may be taking place from your perspective at a certain time is taking place from another perspective at a completely different time. Our consciousness can be fragmented in many different directions simultaneously because we are, as we say, mostly connected now to spirit, and spirit can see things from multiple points of view, multiple dimensional perspectives. So it's just a matter of what we have gotten used to in terms of creating an interaction, creating a connection that simply, when necessary, goes to whatever dimensional time frame is appropriate and relevant for the communication that needs to occur.
Okay, thank you. Some reports of the white tic-tac shaped craft describe a couple of small protrusions sticking out. Do those craft, in fact, have any protrusions?
Not permanently. Protrusions, sensors, can stick out when they need them to and be retracted also when required.
Can you tell us about the purpose of them?
Not at this time.
Okay. I know you say that all prayers are answered. If I pray to ETs for help with a personal challenge, can they help me if they see fit?
Do not pray to extraterrestrials. Prayer is a state of grace, a state of gratitude in the present for what you already are receiving. It's not a matter of asking for more than you're already being given. You are being given everything you can be given, all the help you can be given from extraterrestrials, from whom it is appropriate to give, from spirit beings and guides, from all that is, from sources of your own spirit family, soul family. You are being given everything you can be given. The idea of praying is about staying in a state of present grace and gratitude for what you are receiving so that you can become more aware of the help you're already receiving. You do not need to ask for more cannot be given than what is already given. You are being given everything that can be given. Open yourself up in your state of prayer to receive and be aware of what you're already getting.
Okay. Is it possible that contact could be in dreams? This person keeps having dreams of various UFO sightings and even had one last night.
Most contact events will occur in dream time. Again, it is a slightly altered version of physical reality, a slightly altered dimension in which it is easier for extraterrestrial and spirit beings to interact with human beings when their normal daily waking consciousness is set aside a bit. So these things are actually happening and are actually representative of memories to the best that your physical mind can interpret them with the dream language. But most contacts at this point occur in the dream state, in the dream time, yes.
And this person is saying that they once experienced a communication from their deceased dog through a ceiling fan. Both the dog and the fan are white, and they wanted to know how a being can communicate through an inanimate object. I understand they're saying that they understand how we do that in physical reality through gift giving, for example, but how do spirits do this? Can you give us any insight on that?
Spirits will use whatever object, because remember, objects are just projections of consciousness. The idea of the spirit of the animal may have recognized that the observation by the human of the ceiling fan allowed the human to be in a perfect state of receptivity for the animal to communicate the vibration of love and connection that the animal was attempting to do. So, like any spirit using synchronicity in the things, the objects, the projections of consciousness that are already in front of your face, making it easier for them to make a connection because of your attentiveness to them, because of your ability to perceive these objects and accept them in your reality, then yes, an animal or any being in spirit can utilize an object as a way of communication.
External substances to attempt to fill what they feel is a void within their spirit, within their soul, or they are using those substances to numb the feeling so they don't have to pay attention to it. In both cases, in a sense, it's an avoidance of really looking within the self and understanding how to fill what they determine is a void within themselves, what they believe to be something missing from themselves, about the idea of their worth, their value, their deservability. All these things prevent them from feeling their connection to source, from feeling their self-empowerment. And therefore they try to fill what becomes experienced as an emptiness, as a void, with something externally which will never work, or they try to numb it with those same substances so they don't have to pay attention to it and then be afraid of looking within themselves, because they are afraid that looking within themselves, they might find out that the emptiness they feel is actually their true state. That's actually true about them, that they're worthless. that they're undeserving, so on and so forth. There is nothing to be afraid of, and people can be assisted and guided to looking within themselves without worrying that the idea of their negative beliefs about themselves are actually going to ultimately be true. Because if that were true, you wouldn't exist, because everyone is worthy by the fact of their existence. But different people have to be guided in different ways to find that out, to realize that truth about themselves. So it will depend upon the kind of person, the kind of beliefs they have, the reasons they're holding on to those beliefs. Sometimes they hold on to those beliefs also because they get attention that way. And if they felt undeserving of attention on their own, they will do things like put themselves in dire circumstances and dire situations where their very physical life is threatened so that other people will start paying attention to them. And so in that sense, it may also work for them. But the idea is that, of course, that never ultimately works. They have to give themselves the love, and they have to give themselves the attention, and they have to allow themselves to know that that void that they feel is not really a void. It is just a belief system that they have about themselves that is not in alignment with who they truly are.
So when an individual allows themselves to feel happy, to feel their connection to source,
Yes.
when they allow this, that automatically shifts them out of the state that you're describing, where they feel an emptiness or a loneliness, and they seek out external things to fill that.
Yes, because again, external things aren't real. We understand that physical reality seems very solid to you, but it's not. It's an illusion. And therefore, those things have no real substance to them. So what you're doing is you're feeding yourself, in a sense, a diet of illusions when you are addicted to things that really have no substance. It's nothing more than a reflection or a play act saying, I feel empty, I feel undeserving, I feel unworthy, I feel that I have no soul, no solid connection to anything in creation. So all you're doing is demonstrating that by taking these illusionary props and assuming that they're actually the things that you need to repair yourself, or that you need to numb yourself so you don't have to pay attention to it. Remember, physical reality isn't real. So even though you create a physical reaction to these substances, you're actually doing that yourself. You're deteriorating yourself by yourself. You are diminishing your energy, and you are making disconnections to physical reality on your own. It's just that those kinds of substances become negative permission slips that you can say, it's not my fault, I'm doing these things, and these things are doing it to me. It's all an illusion. It's all a play act.
So
But
in a
it's
sense,
based
it's
on the idea of a negative sense of self instead of a positive one.
So the idea is that that is creating a permission slip to allow you to bypass the negative beliefs that are keeping you from feeling the connection that you
Yes.
naturally have to source. And that's when a permission slip becomes a negative
Yes.
thing, when you rely on that to put you in that state, instead of realizing that you have the ability to choose that state and not
Yes.
buy into the negative beliefs that are diminishing your energy and keeping you feeling
Yes.
isolated.
Yes, because the fundamental vibrational frequency of addiction is that a person feels like they have no choice. And that's a choice they're making. But they don't know that because it doesn't feel that way. So they have to understand the paradox that having an experience of feeling like you have no choice is a choice. And once they understand that, they can break through it, if they desire to.
So, like in the situation where a person comes into this life with a theme of an eating disorder, like an anorexia or bulimia, from a very young age, is there a special reason why someone would choose that?
Well, yes, again, there can be. Again, please remember, there are as many reasons as there are people. Now, some of them fall into collective categories, yes, and can be generally similar, yes. The idea sometimes why a soul would choose that is not even so much for their own soul's growth, although it always does help because it can accelerate whatever a person might be willing to learn in physical reality by having an experience like that and transforming it relatively rapidly in the period of a lifetime. As far as the soul is concerned, that's a brief period. But the idea is that it also helps other people learn how to have compassion and start relating to people like that to figure out what's going on within them. And that helps society as well understand why they may be creating certain things that they are creating that they may not actually prefer to be experiencing. So sometimes a soul will choose that, not even for themselves so much as for what it will do to help society learn and grow in more compassionate ways. So again, you have to take it on a case-by-case basis.
And in this example, the person is saying that their older brother has a disability due to a genetic condition and he can't speak or walk. I'm interested in exploring the spiritual significance of individuals with disabilities in the physical world. Can you provide
Yes.
some insight on this?
Same answer. What are you learning that you otherwise wouldn't have learned had your brother's condition been normal? Are there different ways you now have to learn to communicate with someone who cannot speak? Are there different things you are learning about assisting someone who cannot walk? How do these things symbolize issues within yourself, your family, and society in terms of learning to see things in a different light, learn to do things in a different way, to have compassion and understanding and creative imaginations strong enough and broad enough to figure out how can we allow these people to be valuable members of society, and what are we learning from them we otherwise wouldn't learn by what they have chosen to experience in this way. These are the first questions that need to be asked in relation to dealing with someone with those kinds of conditions. What are we learning? How is this serving humanity? How is it serving society that this soul chose to have what appear to be these limitations, and it's forcing us to look for new ways, different ways to think outside the box, as you say, to interact with them and engage them and admit them into society, because they are helping society expand and improve the ways in which we communicate, we act, we deal with other people that are different from ourselves, so on and so forth.
Okay. And what is the difference between self-realization and enlightenment?
Not so much. You have to be self-realized to be enlightened, and you have to be enlightened to be self-realized. It's basically two sides of the same coin of being your true self and being awake and aware in the idea that you are creating your reality and that you have the freedom to choose what experience you have of that, and taking the responsibility, not in a negative way, but in the ability to respond for all the things you experience, because you know you are your own universe, and yet you are interacting with other facets of it in whatever way, shape, or form serves humanity best, and serves everyone best, and serves all that is the best at being itself and experiencing itself in all the ways that it can. It is the understanding of that that promotes enlightenment and awareness of self in terms of what it means to be the self.
And when our pets pass away, is their death experience the same as ours? Do they experience a waking up? Do they have a life review? Does their energy, their soul hang out with us? How can we connect with our pets who have passed?
Think of them, feel the love you have for them. They will feel it, they will pick it up. They don't have exactly the same kind of process of transitioning back into spirit. The idea of a life review is not exactly what it is for a human. The idea is that they may see or experience flashes of experiences that they experienced with their family in physical reality, but it's not so much a review as it is a recognition of the reason they were attracted to be with that family, so that it is reinforced, it is strengthened, and allows them to continue to interact with that family from spirit in a new and different way. So when you know that they are willing and capable of still continuing to interact with you from spirit, think of them, feel the love you have for them. They will feel it, they will pick it up, and they do sometimes interact with people in a variety of ways, even though you may not completely perceive it to be so. But you can hone your senses, you can feel and know when they are there for you. They can also be off doing other things. But the idea is that, of course, in spirit, they are more expanded. They may not be exactly the idea of the pet or the family member as an animal that you experienced in that limited way, but they do still contain that. They are bigger than that, just like you are bigger than that when you are in spirit. But nevertheless, they are keenly and constantly aware of the connections that they have with you and are more than willing to engage with you when you hone your senses and are capable of perceiving that they are doing so. So send them love, think of them, they will pick it up and they will respond. It's up to you to have the senses that are keen enough to know when those responses are coming to you.
Many people experience a thing where they have a dream about their pet and the pet is like still alive and it's telling them, I'm fine, you know?
Yes.
Um, how can and that can be very reassuring, especially if you lose a loved pet. How can you generate an experience like that? Or can you communicate with your pet and ask them, please come in my dream and tell me how you are, or
Yes,
something
you
like that?
can. But again, the idea is to communicate through imagery because that's more representative of a telepathic bond. Just see them doing it. Just see yourself interacting with them in your imagination, in your mind's eye. Visualize the idea of the interaction. Put it out there with feeling. Feel what that would be like to have that interaction that you picture. So use pictures and feelings. That's the strongest way to communicate with them. And sometimes when you have those dreams, even though your pet may still be alive, the idea is that your animal is also telling you that they exist like you do in spirit, and that physical reality is simply a part of them and a temporary thing. But that your natural state is spirit. You never really leave it, and neither do they.
In particular, I had left off on the section entitled Death and Afterlife. I was watching all your videos about that. And my uncle, later on that week, my uncle passed away.
All right.
And so I was in a truck. We were leaving the Black Rock Desert whenever I got this text message from my dad saying my uncle passed away. And after thinking about the things you were saying, I I immediately decided I was gonna invite my uncle to communicate with me in some way. And so I spent a moment or two, and about an hour goes by. We're going down the road, and the driver was pointing to how low the lake was on the right, and neither one of us saw that there were four cows in the road, and we smashed into four cows going almost full speed, and I basically had like a near death experience, is what it felt like. I had feared for my life for a split second, and so it, is it possible that my uncle Steve was involved in the way that scenario unfolded?
Well, not in the sense that he placed the cows in front of you, if that's what you mean,
Well, that's reassuring.
but in the sense that he gave you an opportunity to utilize what you're calling a near-death experience to know that you are more strongly now connected to the idea of spirit by giving you an opportunity to not pay attention to what was there momentarily so that you could be given the opportunity to experience a stronger connection to spirit briefly.
Excellent. Yeah.
At the same time, it is pay attention to your physical surrounding, because you could easily transition into spirit in the way that he did if you don't pay attention to what's going on right in front of your face.
All right. All right.
Now, he's going to make light of this situation a little bit by letting you know that all in all, it sort of wound up being a moving experience.
It definitely was.
Well, that comes directly from him.
All right.
But pay attention to your surroundings, because it's very easy when you don't do so to transition back into spirit. but you were given a choice to stay or go back, and you chose to go back because you weren't done.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
again, being that this person seems to love the idea of humor and puns, now that he's on the other side in a different way, he would suggest that if you're going to choose to stay in physical reality, that you milk it for all it's worth.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. I will definitely do that.
All right.
So,
Does that help you?
It definitely does. It's been on my mind for months now. This is
All
September.
right.
This happened.
All right.
Something that I'm fascinated to watch on the internet is people with Tourette's syndrome
Yes.
that do all sorts of funny things. Is this a type of channeling?
It's a type of short-circuiting. It's an attempt to connect into a channeling state, but there's some short-circuiting going on.
I see. For somebody who says that they're struggling with it, that they want them to go away, like how do they take ownership of this? How do they move forward from that?
Well, it will depend upon the person. There are any number of reasons why a person may have connected to this particular kind of an experience, and therefore you would have to have a more specific understanding of the specific person that's experiencing it and how they can deal with it in a different way. But in general, similar to the idea of epilepsy, it requires a coordination and harmonization of the different aspects of the left and right hemispheres of the brain through the center of the brain, the corpus callosum. So certain kinds of energy exercises or meditations that involve shifting your focus between the left and right hemispheres of the brain and centering the energy in the center of the brain in the corpus callosum can be of some assistance to some people. But of course, again, it depends upon the reasons why they may have chosen to have this kind of an experience.
Awesome. My other fun question is it possible or is it likely in our future that we'll connect our internet to other worlds or other timelines of Earth?
Well, yes, although it won't be the internet as you know it now.
Okay.
But the idea of your exploration into quantum computing can make the connection to parallel realities possible.
Wow. Very, very cool. And then just one last thing. Do the hybrid children spend any time on TikTok?
A few of them have observed several things that exist on your internet for their educational purposes, but again, they don't spend much time.
All right. Thank you so much, Bashar.
You are welcome.
Hi, Bashar. My name is Shauna, and I live in Salem, New Hampshire. I have been in dialogue with you on a few occasions around the topic of the inner child. Most recently, we have discussed the false self. From what I understand, the false self is a personality that I created and that I project that experiences some limitations that are represented of the challenges I agreed to face, overcome, transform, and move closer to my true self. I also understand that we create a false self as a defense mechanism to protect the inner, more vulnerable true self and to help the child feel accepted and safe and to preserve their attachment to the original caregivers, mom, the parents. So I have a few questions. And I feel intuitively that I already know what the answer to these questions are, but I'm going to put them out there anyway. So first, do we come into physical reality with a structure of beliefs already in place? In that structure of beliefs that we bring into physical reality, can they contain already negative, fear-based, or limiting beliefs, or are those created explicitly through our early childhood programming and conditioning? And my last question is, I understand that the real true self holds all of my beliefs based in positivity, love, and expansion. So am I to believe that the false self holds at its core all of the beliefs based in fear, negativity, and limitation? Thank you so much, Bashar. Aveo.
First of all, the true self is not negatively vulnerable in the way that you mean that. You might have created an inner child self that can experience negative vulnerability, but the true self is never negatively vulnerable. So there's no protection required for the true self. You're only protecting the self that you're referring to as the false self. Yes, you can come in with a belief system structure that is representative of the challenges you've agreed to face, and therefore many of them may already be negative in the terms of the programming that you're referring to. Some of them may be enhanced by the idea of the environment that you have also been born into, the parents, the schooling, the friends, the family, so on and so forth. So it can be a mix of things. But yes, it can come in with the idea of having certain parameters, certain limitations pre-programmed so that you will face the challenges that you agreed to face. It can be a mix of these different things. But again, the idea is that the true core self, the true core vibration is what guides you to examine and explore all these belief systems and limitations you have imposed upon yourself with agreements, one way or another, to allow you to break free from them and align the idea of your belief systems with the true core self, with the positive inner child, not the one that feels negatively vulnerable, and that the idea of the false, as you're referring to it, false self, can have a core of its own that carries these belief systems forward so that you will ensure that you will experience the challenges that you agreed to face. But they're not the same as the core, true vibrations of your essential being. It's simply what might be referred to as the collective programming for the challenges that you decided to face.
Bashar, thank you so much for taking my questions today.
Yes?
So I would like to ask you today about my childhood near-death experience.
All right.
At the age of 7, I had a near-death experience, and I've come to understand that I was looking down at myself from an out-of-body experience.
Yes.
And while I was in that state, it was like I was surrounded by quicksilver or mercury, and a hand of a woman came out of everywhere and materialized over my eyes. And then another, like it was all mercury or quicksilver, and then another hand came over my solar plexus, and then it was like I got pulled up with a snap and a pop from my solar plexus, and then I couldn't see anything. But there was a discussion about how painful and prolonged it was all going to be, and am I sure I want to go back? And
Yes.
I said that I did.
Yes. These kinds of conversations with spirit guides are relatively typical in certain cases of near death.
So was I taken to the blue planet then?
No. You stayed in the electromagnetic energy of spirit and were given an opportunity to decide whether you wanted to move on or whether you wanted to go back to physical reality.
If I had chosen to stay dead, would I have gone to the blue planet, or would I have just died?
Well, what do you mean just died? Just died means you have choices to do other things. One of them could have been the choice to go to a blue planet, but you decided to come back to Earth, which is also considered a blue planet.
Oh, I mean the planet of the blue people.
Yes, you could have chosen that, but you knew that you had chosen originally to be on Earth for specific reasons, and therefore you wanted to finish that so you wouldn't have to necessarily repeat it.
Okay. So that brings me to the other part of this question, which is about when people use the term walk-ins. That is a misnomer, right? Because obviously, my body is just the most crystallized part of my energy, right?
Yes.
There is no
Yes.
somebody else using my left hand while I use the rest of my body.
No, the idea of a walk-in is simply a shift in the awareness of the soul and the ability to express more of the individual soul through that physical form. It's not a different person coming in. The personality may shift to seem like a different person because personality is an artificial construct, and therefore it can be accurate to say it's a different person because that's the projection, but the soul is simply expressing more of itself. It's the same original soul.
Right, of course. But from the human society's aspect, they call you a walk-in because you kind of don't fit, right? Like from their side of view,
Yes.
it's like, well, we killed you fair and square. What are you doing here? Get lost, right? We don't have space for you anymore.
Well, no, but of course the idea is that you do have space because it is necessary and timely for that being to express more of its soul because that can be of greater service to the society, even if the society rejects it.
Right, exactly. Well, that's the key there. Society does not, we're not compatible though. You're not compatible with the
Well,
other people.
That's not always the case. Most walk-ins, in the sense that we're explaining it, are perfectly compatible. It's just the ones that happen to stand out as more different that become seemingly less compatible, even though, of course, there's a reason why they're there and expressing themselves that way, even though people may not get it. But there's more walk-ins and more shifting than you may think. It's just that most of them are compatible with the timing of having done so.
Right. So in terms of when you said in the mirror reflections transmission, somebody
Yes.
said that they broke their jaw.
Yes.
And you said that the purpose of that for them was to accelerate their shifting.
Yes.
And you said that sort of to me about my situations as well.
Yes.
When you say accelerate the shifting, do you just mean making bigger changes in less time?
Yes. In other words, many people will create what appear to be accidents because it abruptly kicks them into a new understanding and a new perspective and accelerates their ability to move forward in a slightly different way, or maybe even a profoundly different way.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, Bashar. I appreciate it.
It is our passion and our pleasure. Thank you. Good day. One moment. One moment. All right then. We will say good day to all of you downline, our little chokies, referring to the idea of your artichoke, which has many layers that need to be pulled away in order to find the heart. Let us go on a journey now together for the idea that we have initiated with you of the cryptic experience for those that wish to go on the shamanistic journey and allow themselves to ground and connect more to what you call the natural world as your natural selves. Let me remind you first and foremost of the idea of the first phase of the forest path that we have explained to you as meditating for at least 15 of your minutes as you count time, with your back to a tree, connecting with your energy and facing a body of water. Whether it be a stream or a babbling brook or a lake or a sea, doesn't matter. The idea being that you are connecting with your hand to the ground and allowing your energy and mentality to extend your consciousness below ground into the root system and the mycelial network that connects all the trees along which they share nutrients and energy and information with each other to become one organism, so that you can begin to bond with them in that way and start to really receive more clearly the communications along the forest path of all of the consciousness expressing itself as trees and flowers and streams and rocks and sky. All of the growing things of the earth itself, and connecting into Gaia in that way. But now we would like to introduce the first step in the next phase, which we call the animal path, this being the springtime of change. And in the fall, coming up with the idea of the next change in your seasons, at that time introducing you to the elemental path. And as the Bashar has explained to some degree, the idea that there are 3 steps to each of the 3 phases for a completion total of 9 to allow you to go through the cryptic phase in that way. And then move on eventually to the nocturnal phase for those again who wish to follow this path and increase their sensitivity to the idea of higher frequency energies and those communications that exist all around every single one of you all the time that may now be invisible to you. So let us peel away some of the leaves of the artichokes that you are to find the heart by going into the idea of expanding your experience, not stopping your experience of doing the forest path in the way that we have described it to connect to that mycelial network, but continuing to enhance that for at least 15 minutes of your time, longer if you wish. But now going into the idea of the animal path. So first and foremost, we would allow you to become very relaxed in whatever way you find comfortable for you and your consciousness at this time. And allow yourself to drift and dream with whatever lights and sounds you wish to play. It's up to you. And to begin to allow yourself to open up to the animal path of the cryptic journey and the shamanistic experience in the following way. Allow your imagination to go this way now. As we describe, you can allow yourself and your imagination to go with the flow of what you are already familiar with. In other words, if you already identify with a particular kind of animal, be they the idea of cats or be the idea of dogs that you have around you constantly and commonly, that is all right. But at the moment, we would also invite you to open up to the idea of different forms of animal consciousness in different environments around your planet, around the idea of Earth at the time in which you live, be it forest, be it jungle, be it sky, be it sea, be it the idea of inviting in or attracting yourself to the consciousness of the birds, the bees, the animals that might be called mammals, the animals that might be called insects, the animals that might be called reptiles, the fish, the dolphins, the whales, whatever it is you're most attracted to. But I would caution you this: don't necessarily choose the animal or gravitate to the animal just because you enjoy them. Allow this to be an experience of the animal truly coming to you, truly letting you know that they are there for you. And if it is something that you already have developed a strong bond with, be it the idea, as we say, of a cat or a dog, it's all right to use the animals you already consider to be family. But make sure the bond is strong. Make sure that the familiar sense is there, that they truly feel like part of your family at this time. Not just because you are enamored of them, not just because they are friendly and like to play, but truly because you consider them and feel them to be members of your family. So give yourself a moment to just use your imagination and open up to forest or jungle or sky or land or sea or savanna or plain or cold or warm. The desert or the forest doesn't matter. What matters now is that you allow yourself to feel, to stretch out your vibrational energy, to connecting to the animal you feel most bonded with. Let it come to you, or you can travel to it. It doesn't matter in that way. Allow yourself simply to feel that familial bond of love. These animals that come to you or that you go to or that you have chosen here in your imagination, you must be willing to truly hold them in your heart. Truly hold them in your arms if at all possible. Truly find them to be a connection of love and light. Truly feel that you are in communion with them. Truly feel that they live with you in your family. Truly feel that they are a part of you and you a part of them, that you truly love them deeply, deeply held in that sense. Allow yourself a moment to feel this way and see what animals come up to you. Sometimes one animal may approach and it may leave. You may test it out and you may find it is not exactly the bond you're looking for, and that's fine. It does not matter in that sense. But allow yourself to go through this exercise of opening your imagination and opening up your heart to the animal path, and let the animal show you by the feeling that you have of familiarity and love and a family bond with them, that you could truly feel yourself holding them in your hands, loving them, putting your forehead to theirs if they have one, allowing themselves to truly physically interact, connect with you in that way, and be a loving source for you as you are a loving source for them, a reflection as they are a reflection for you. Allow yourself to do this and take the time necessary to really find which one works for you. I already know that for myself, it is the gravitation to the fox in many forms that is mine. And it isn't even about the idea necessarily of being the same animal that you might consider to be your own animal totem in life. That can be different. It can be the same, but it can be different. So allow yourself to really feel it deeply, the connection that you are family, you are in love with this animal, as I am in love with the fox, as the fox is part of my family, as the fox is the family to which I belong. That it goes in both directions in that way, that you really feel that connection, that strength from heart to heart and mind to mind, eye to eye, face to face, with this beautiful, loving animal consciousness. Give yourself the time to explore this until you find that one settles in and one fills your heart and fills you with love and fills you with joy and expands your consciousness to see differently, to see the world differently through its eyes, to begin to truly identify in many ways as that animal, as the animal identifies as you, to truly share, immerse yourselves in the vibrational state and bubble of each other. That is, each of your realities becoming one, sharing that overlap, to truly create a third identity with you as animal and animal as you, to allow yourself to truly the time to experience these things in love and joy and relaxation, and to drift with each other and dream with each other until it becomes a kind of a blur, so you cannot tell yourselves apart by looking through each other's eyes and being in love with one another truly, deeply. And allow yourself that time to drift and harmonize and feel that love and that joy with each other. This is the second part of the cryptic journey, and this is just the beginning. For again, as has been explained, as you go through every part, it is just the first part of each of the 3 phases of the cryptic journey, and we will come back around again and again to take you to the next level of the forest path and the animal path and the elemental path, so that you can complete the circuitry of the 9 in each of the stages, the overall stages, the first being the cryptic that grounds you and connects you to nature, to Gaia, as your expression of Gaia, so that you can make sure you are anchored to the earth as you then continue on to explore other dimensional realms in the nocturnal and the shapeshifter and the sage and the wraith levels, as you will want to do if you have a mind to, as you have a gravitation to, as you have an attraction to. For not everyone necessarily has to go through the entire set. You can allow yourself to stop at being the cryptic. You can stop at being the nocturnal. Whatever it is that feels correct to you, you can do. For the path, the full path, is not for everyone, nor does it need to be. But we take you on this journey with us this time, so that you become into the lodge of the brotherhood and the sisterhood of whatever it is you wish to be, of the spirithood that is you, into this lodge that we offer you this invitation for, to follow the cryptic path in whatever way, shape, or form you so desire or not. 'Tis up to you, and we welcome you with open arms and open heart and open mind into the lodge that we share on the journey of the cryptic and the journey of the shaman, the journey of the spirit and the journey of the soul in this particular way at this particular timing. Allow yourselves to be immersed in this whenever you so desire. Don't forget to allow yourselves the forest path too, of constantly going into the idea of the woods and sitting with your back to the tree and facing the water and deepening your sense of consciousness into the mycelial root system. And then also following this idea of the animal path and allowing yourself to drift and dream as you strengthen the bond of love and family between you and the animal that shows up for you in this way. So that will be the second part that you can practice, 1 and 2 in that way, and we will then bring you the third part of the elemental path in its first step in the fall, which is the appropriate timing to get in touch with the elementals, as you know, because that's truly, in a sense, what Halloween is all about. So now enjoy and revel and celebrate the spring with the animal path by going more deeply into nature on the cryptic path, the shaman path, the spirit path of the lodge that we invite you to belong to on this journey with us. Our unconditional love to you, my dear little artichokes, as you peel away those leaves and find the core and find the heart of your being that is so delicious. For every single one of you is beautiful in that way. We thank you, and we now turn you back to the Bashar, and we will see you again. For we will now be more upline, and you will be now downline, but we will be closer to each other through this particular journey, through this particular exercise, and we will become more in love with each other, more bonded as family with each other in this way, and more part of the same lodge, more part of the same humanhood and hybridhood and spirithood. Our love to you all. Blessings and good day. And give us a moment. All right, now as you allow yourself to absorb the information that Willa has given you and to apply it in your lives, in whatever way, shape, or form your imagination so desires and your higher mind guides you, allow yourself to know that you have been given this gift to look more deeply within yourself, to discover more aspects of your being and your consciousness, and to live in more joy and in more love and in more light and more beauty. The beauty that unfolds from the center of your being, the spark of light that is the reflection of all that is within you. Our unconditional love and deep appreciation to you all for allowing us with you to co-create this experience this day of your time. Until we meet again, welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome home. Aveo. Sasani collective vibration, and there may be a counterpart, Sasani being, who would be more than willing to channel through you, but it will not be personally me. I am coming through this channel only. But by allowing yourself to explore different states of being in channeling, in the gamma state in the brain between 40 and 100 cycles per second, you can attract whatever you need, information-wise or experience-wise, but one of the best ways to practice the idea of vocal channeling, if that's what you're referring to, is to surround yourself with a few people that are asking questions that they really, really need the answer to, because in a sense, they act like ground, like electricity going to a grounding mechanism. They, by asking those questions and needing to hear the answer, pull the information through you. So you can kind of get out of the way and not have to really pay attention to what's going on. Because if the information is just coming to you, you don't really have to go into a full channeling state. You can be more conscious of what's going on, receive the information, and simply deliver it on your own to people in your own words if you wish to. But to go into a full channeling state, it's always best to have people asking questions to pull the information through you. And also at the same time, you have to absolutely get out of the way in terms of your negative ego structure. You cannot care what you look like, how silly you sound, or whether you get any information for them at all. You have to just trust the way it unfolds and just keep moving forward. Remember, going into the channeling state is also for you as the channel to clear yourself out of all the things that you may need to let go of. So the process is not just for the information for the people asking questions, it's also for you to go through an experience that helps you evolve as well.
And I believe this person also asked how to interpret it when one notices slight discrepancies or inconsistencies in a channel where it's a source that they otherwise entirely resonate with. What is the best way to sort through that without being thrown off of your faith or belief in or trust in a set of teachings?
All right. Well, first of all, you never have to swallow anything whole. You can decide what works for you and what doesn't in any discipline, including ours. The idea, of course, is that channeling in your reality is not, let's just say, a perfect mechanism. There may be misinterpretations, misunderstandings. There may be a lack of using your language in a way that you would understand it because you have different meanings and interpretations for things. The idea is that sometimes it can simply slip. The idea being that, again, it's not always focused in a perfect way. So there may be what you would call some mistakes here and there that would cause certain discrepancies. At the same time, always look into your own belief systems to make sure you're not coloring the information or misinterpreting the information in a way that you prefer it to be, rather than being open to what is actually being said to you. So you have to really take it on a moment-to-moment basis and just see if something doesn't hit you right. Examine yourself to make sure you're not the one making it go into a different state than you would prefer. At the same time, realize there will always be errors here and there that will creep in from time to time, because no channel is perfect. No channeling medium in that sense, energetically, will always maintain a perfect focus for a variety of reasons. And there are certain things that simply get misinterpreted and or interpreted in different ways than maybe the normal understanding of your world. There may be things that don't make sense now that will make sense later. There are a variety of reasons why things may seem to be a little off kilter from time to time.
Thank you. How might experiences of sexuality continue to shift and evolve as our consciousness evolves?
Well, in many different ways, perhaps, all the way up to what we experience now and beyond, where our activity sexually is no longer exactly physical, but more energetic in the creation of energy bubbles that interlink, overlap, and create a third life within the overlap. So it's no longer the physical act that it used to be for us, that it still is for you. But again, as you open yourself up in a fourth density, higher vibrational way, you'll be clearer about the reasons for the idea of expressing sexuality, and they will all be more in your expression aligned with the positive vibration and less aligned with the negative vibration. You will know perfectly the reasons why you may experience the idea of sexuality, and they will all enhance your ability to evolve forward in the fourth density reality that you're creating.
In the last transmission, you said that our individual processes of transforming darkness and limitation within ourselves is getting us ready for a larger collective project doing the same thing.
Yes.
Can you talk more about that and what is coming up in that regard, and what will transforming darkness and limitation look like on a larger collective scale?
No, it's premature. We will address it when it is the time to address it.
Okay. How did you come up with the discovery of shifting from parallel reality to parallel reality at Planck time frequency, each reality being totally distinct from the others? Are there any indications that this is our ordinary real life experience and you were able to figure that out without labs or complicated computations?
Yes, as we evolved and as we followed our version, our understanding of what we've shared with you called the formula, you raise your frequency in specific ways. And those specific ways extend your senses in specific ways. And those specific ways allow you to actually start to view the structure of existence and how it's actually functioning on different levels. So we simply suddenly became aware of parallel realities in a very tangible way and started becoming more aware as we evolved in the momentum that we created for ourselves of all of the different specific increments that go into allowing physical reality to work the way it does. So it was really a matter of opening up our senses to the point where it became obvious to see things and the structure of existence in a very particular way. And then things simply became as obvious to us